Welcome to African Voices. I'm Osmic Menoe in the historic Johannesburg neighborhood of Newtown for this show about hip-hop. That genre of music originated from New York City more than 50 years ago, but has become a global phenomenon, a cultural moment. On this show, I'll introduce you to change makers who represent the past and the future of hip-hop here in Africa.
Under the roof of hip-hop, there's no color. It's about skill. I thought to myself, if we create a space that enables that, future generations will come sip some inspiration from here.
The beats, the rhymes, the threads. Osmic Menoe embraced all the elements from American hip-hop culture while he was growing up in Johannesburg.
Spray painting, beatboxer. I think also what gives me a bit of an edge over quite a lot of people is that I've practiced all the elements. So b-boy, so at some point I was in the b-boy breakdancer fraternity, graffiti artist, I was in that world, producer, I was in that world, the rapper, I was in that world, skateboarder, I was in that world, and I still practice, almost all those things. To the bank.
Now, this multifaceted entrepreneur has devoted his life and work to foster a uniquely South African hip-hop culture.
Everybody I've spoken to like, oh, you're speaking to Osmic? He's a godfather of hip-hop.
Oh, never that.
I mean, claim it.
Look, my title is, I'm just a guy who works for the culture.
For people who are not familiar with you internationally, how would you describe who you are and what you do?
When I was in high school, I did this mixtape where I went around and I got different songs from different artists in the country, and I compiled it into a format that sounded like a radio. I would call these artists into my bedroom and I would interview them like this, and I recorded and then I put it on a cassette tape and I sold it, and it got very, very popular. And do you know what that's called right now, right?
No.
It's called a podcast. And with that money that I was able to make from that, and also because I'm a graffiti artist as well, with some of the small jobs that you get, I ended up about 22 years ago opened a retail store called Ritual Stores, right down in Newtown. And what the significance of that store was sort of one of the first of its kind because it was a lifestyle store. And I was around 19 years of age. And a year later, when I was 20, then we started this thing called Back to the City.
Osmic's Back to the City idea is now the largest international hip-hop festival in South Africa. MCs, DJs, breakdancers, and graffiti artists from across Africa and the world have gathered every year in the Newtown neighborhood since 2007. Last October, the festival featured acts like Big Zulu and Sjava, and was headlined by renowned New York rappers like the Beatnuts and Mobb Deep.
Looking forward to the 20th anniversary. What goes into putting together something at that scale?
Besides stress,
a lot of stress.
It's an amazing team. So all these things I do, I don't do them by myself, There's an army behind me raising capital to create this or to make this happen. Will always be the headache because it's millions and millions that it takes. But at the end of the day, we laugh and we smile because we all share a common passion.
Hip-hop is an African-American art form, came out of specific circumstances in New York, but it's been localized and elevated here in South Africa. How did it evolve in this country?
The origins of it, I think, in this country comes obviously from places like Cape Town, whether it be in Emile, was having the foresight to become pen pals with a lot of these hip-hop pioneers. And I'm talking about in the 80s. These guys were literally, Facebooking each other with letters, You start seeing around mid-90s, 95, 96, when it gets here, and now the commercial stations are starting to play American, hip-hop videos here and there. And what that automatically does is that it starts making us, the younger people, start feeling like, oh, if these American rappers did it, and if they dress in this way, it means we also must dress this way. And you know, meaning around that time, we still don't have an identity. At some point, you know, you were deemed as whack if you were rapping in your mother tongue, right? But the more people start doing it on a commercial level, like in ammunition, you start having the confidence.
What you're saying is that when it became cool enough to rap in Zulu, in local languages, then that was a major inflection point to the other commercial successes of hip-hop in South Africa.
Because that creates confidence, because we all know without confidence, it's tricky to move forward.
From a lifestyle store to a full-blown festival, Osmic's Ritual Media Group, created in 2002, capitalized on the success of the Back to the City Festival.
How do you then take that and expand it into this hip-hop empire?
Around that time, what starts happening is the brands start coming because we start getting the numbers. So the first one, I think we had over 3,000 people.
Right.
I think fast forward is this festival happens, this festival is huge. Now we're sitting on 20,000 people. Imagine if we created a platform where the culture or the community could reward and award and congratulate all this different hard work. And that's how the South African Hip Hop Awards come in.
SA Hip Hop Awards.
The South African Hip Hop Awards made their television debut in 2013 and have become a huge platform for African recording artists.
Since you started doing the South African Hip Hop Awards, what are you most proud of?
To see what it means to a guy who puts in the work and gets awarded, and what it does for him the next morning. Because a lot of people still don't understand that for this journey to get here, for some of us, it's still like we're daydreaming.
Next, we'll see Osmic's dream of a museum come to life and his vision for the future.
This is the timeline of South African hip hop from 1980 till 2020, and what we try to do is that on the other side, it's the American hip hop timeline, so we try to juxtapose the two.
In Osmic Menoe's long list of achievements, there's one endeavor that embodies his mission of being a steward of the culture, the South African Hip Hop Museum.
We're here at the Hip Hop Museum that is still coming together. Why is this important for you as a project?
I think for me, legacy and education and preservation are important. And I'm gonna tell my great-grandkids all these wild stories, and they'll be like, whatever, man. You know,
where's the evidence?
It's like, whatever, man. I'll be like, yeah, I know. Then I was in America, and then I was chilling with this one, and then I was having lunch with Jay-Z, and then Beyonce walked in, and it'd be like, yeah, whatever. But in all these stories, there's inspiration that I think a lot of people can draw from. Because like I say, is that it happened to me, and I always believe it happened to me can happen to anyone else because I've seen it happen to different other people.
More than just a list of people and events, Osmic's dream for the museum is to inspire young artists to create.
So we've got a recording studio as well here, fully functional, state of the art. And in that section, we've got 2 edit suites. Obviously, there's a setup for DJs. If you wanna, do a podcast and live stream.
The podcast you started doing before that was a thing.
There we go. So that's the space right here.
Real full circle.
So we're full circle, but also this is a space that's open to the public.
Oh.
So kids that have never experienced to be in a studio such as this is now where they can get to do it. And they can get to do it inside of a hip-hop museum. The studio has a space where we host workshops, launches, book talks.
And it's still coming together. I said, you're still building this.
A lot of people think something is wrong with me. Like, why would you put all that money into a museum?
Right.
But my answer to them is the same reason, why did I open a store all those years? The same reason is why did I start a festival 17 years ago when it made no sense? The same answer would be why did I do the South African Hip Hop Awards then when it made no sense? But when it's gonna make sense is when you're 80 years or you're long gone.
Right.
This modern archive is a journey through hip-hop history, but it's also a personal one.
So what's the story with this train?
Well, this is the graffiti section, and what we did is we built a life-size train.
A lot of thought has gone into this museum.
Purely because that's what passion does, and like I said, it's the fact that one was dabbling into these different things, whether it be the graffiti, and these are all things that I've done, and I'm once again lucky enough to have known quite a lot of the originators.
Right.
26 of those originators, like graffiti artist Falco and rapper Questa, got inducted to the Museum Wall of Fame in 2019. In 2022, the museum opened to the public inside Museum Africa in Newtown. Osmic's private and public partnerships have been the key to move his vision forward. He hopes that this groundwork encourages the next generation to continue its contribution to the culture.
And it's awesome that you got Hennessy to buy the naming rights for this. So you're getting that kind of support.
You know, because it also brings that stature. It also, says, this is not some Mickey Mouse thing. This is, if these dudes at this level are buying into it, this is what it is,
It's at the highest level possible.
It has to be.
All right, so when you run out of wall space, you're gonna add even more?
The future generation will figure that one out.
After you've done the Hip Hop Awards, back to the city, the Hip Hop Museum, in terms of elevating the culture, I think nobody else has done it in South Africa to the same extent that you have. Yeah. What is left to do?
Like Thanos, I rest. I'm joking. No, I think from there, once these spaces are complete, is then to say, how do we weaponize this thing for a positive change? I think the next step is now that to purposely now go into these schools, go into these communities,
So you want to channel hip hop as a force for good in the world, in the community around here?
That's it, but we start first with Africa.
Welcome back. Our next change maker released his debut single at just 14 years old. He's gone on to garner fans around the world and win awards. I spoke to Nasta C about his incredible career and the future of hip hop here in Africa.
What's up, baby? How you guys feeling tonight?
South African hip hop has many different sides, different sounds. It's multi-dimensional. I found it at a very early age, just before I entered my teen years. Mm-hmm. And we all know that's where you start to figure out who you want to be. All the struggles of just being a teenager, all the struggles from just like the neighborhood, society, my own home, you know what I mean? Conflicts within the house, at school, stuff like that. I was already getting all that stuff off my chest through hip hop.
Straight out of Durban, South Africa, rapper, songwriter, and producer Nasta C has broken down barriers for African rappers in international hip-hop. Before the age of 26, the multi-platinum artist has become a voice to the voiceless, writing rhymes that tackle social issues and impact fans across the globe.
When did you have an inkling that I think I'm going to make a career out of this hip-hop thing? I think I'm going to be a rapper?
Probably when I was 16 years old. I think that's when I started getting my first couple peanuts.
Oh, you're getting paid for it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is nice.
Yeah, because I started off on the production side of things. So I used to sell beats, I used to record people and stuff like that. So I'm getting paid like $50, $70, $150. I was already super passionate about it, and I was like, okay, this is going to be easy for me. If I just stick to what I know and do it the way I love to do it and be honest, you know what I mean? It's definitely going to pay off.
Nasta C sprung onto Africa's hip-hop scene in 2012 after learning the ins and outs of production from his older brother Siyabonga Nkobo, who's also a music producer. By the age of 15, he'd released a mixtape, One Kid, 1,000 Coffins. 2 years and an EP later, the rapper dropped his second mixtape, Prize City, which would bring him his first hit, Juice Back.
Bow down to DeVito and bow down to Casper. Heard them say stars are aligned, but they both at their time, and you know that I'm trying to surpass them.
The song took off with a remix featuring Nigerian singer Davido, setting Nasty C's career in motion.
They started with a mixtape. Hell no, will I dumb it down a bit?
In 2016, he released his debut album, Bad Hair. The album garnered Nasty C a BET and MTV Europe Music Award nominations for Africa's Best International Act.
I just came from Kenya, I'm headed to Ghana.
In 2018, the rapper signed a distribution deal with Universal Music Group and released a trap music-inspired album called Strings and Bling.
I trusted over a couple people that I know.
What do people relate most to about your story? Because you said they feel like your life story represents their own struggles, things they've been through.
A lot of troubles with like confidence, self-esteem. You know, I'm very open about those things in a lot of interviews. Speak about it in my music even. Relationship problems, obviously we all go through that. I think the one that sticks out the most is just like coming from not having to making a name for yourself and being able to provide for your family, for your friends, for yourself. You know, I think that's the one thing that people look at and they're like, all right, I want that.
For love and peace, the street.
Nasty C scored South African Music Awards for Best Hip Hop and Best Produced Album in 2019.
Your second album was called Strings and Bling,
Yeah.
which is peak hip hop culture. How have you found being a superstar in this culture, in the era of social media?
It's very interesting because I enjoy it, obviously. You know, I think everyone would enjoy fame. It has its perks. But it also has its dark sides. You know what I mean? And I'm a person I'm very introverted, very shy at times. I keep to myself. I don't really do a lot of human interaction. You know what I mean? It's just not my style. But at the same time, I'm an entertainer, so I'm putting on a show. I have to own this skin when I'm Nasty C. It's because a lot of people relate to my story. A lot of people look at my story and it inspires them. To them, you're the guy that has spoken their truth. You know what I mean? And you've made their stories okay because they know now that they're not going through that alone. Someone like you is also going through it.
Next, find out why Nasty C dubbed himself the coolest kid in Africa and what goes into a Nasty C production.
I tell you some, I show you some, I buy you some, put you on some.
In 2020, Nasty C signed a joint venture deal with Universal Music Africa and Def Jam. He released Zulu Man with Some Power, featuring the popular single Black and White with American artist Ari Lennox.
I be your piece, you be my baby.
You're from Durban. Your album is called Zulu Man with Power. Is that very central to how you sound, to your outlook in the world?
No, not really, not sonically anyways. And I really wanted people to know what tribe I was from and know exactly where I'm from. First listen. I had a very interesting conversation with No ID, legend. And he told me a lot about just like what hip hop has done for different cultures and different cities and different regions, you know? Just like helping bridge that gap between a guy in LA and a guy in Durban. You know exactly what the LA culture is. You've seen the cars, you've seen the way they dress, you've heard the way they speak, and that's kind of helped us understand each other, even though we drifted so far apart, but we're still brothers at the end of the day. So I was like, okay, cool. This is definitely a lesson that I need to take into consideration. I need to start flying my flag also, and not just make cool music. You know what I mean?
Nasty C followed up with the Ivyson Army Tour mixtape and then his fourth studio album, documentary, which aired on MTV Base.
Beginning of this song, and then comp that section on top.
Why did you call yourself the coolest kid in Africa?
At the time where I said that, it was just a bar, really. I did not think it was gonna stick like that, but it did. And it was like I really felt like the coolest kid in Africa, you know. There's nobody really doing what I was doing. The way I was doing it, I was getting all this love. That was cool to me. I come from having no voice and not being recognized at all. And to being someone like that to a lot of people is just wild, you know?
Does it get easier when you've done a few of them, or do you have to reinvent yourself every time you put out, from jungle to strings and bling?
It gets
to
harder.
Man with some power.
It gets harder.
Really?
Funny enough, it gets harder, yeah. Because
I
it's
thought it'd be like muscle memory. I got this.
muscle memory for sure when it comes to the technical side of it, like recording and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But writing it and because when you're writing it and when you're making the music, you're always picturing what the consumer's gonna think when they listen to it, and how it's gonna make them feel. You know what I mean? You wanna reinvent yourself every single time. You wanna come with something fresh.
What's your favorite achievement of everything you've accomplished? What's the thing you're most proud of?
Getting a T.I. feature for sure.
How could you blame as many sisters and brothers die?
I don't think anything tops that. My first music memory was a T.I. song. That's the person I wanted to be at first. And to have him recognize me like that and build a relationship with me like that is insane. It's full circle, out of this world type of stuff. It's crazy.
Of all the projects you've done, all the collaborations, T.I., Ari Lennox, everybody else, what do you look out for when you want to work with somebody, and who are you still looking forward to getting the studio with?
I really don't want anyone to take offense to what I'm about to say, but I'm at a point where I don't really have a lot of people on my list. I was like, I want to work with this person. People are amazing, and I have favorite artists for sure who are just straight gods at what they do. But I'm okay with not having songs with them. I'm fine with just being a super fan of them. I just want to make music with people who have a voice that fits the song that I'm making. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a so-and-so from so-and-so. I don't care about that. If I find your voice to be exactly what I'm looking for because I can't deliver that, whether it's the raspiness or the sweetness in the voice that I'm looking for, let's do a song. I'm looking at it as like a beat is a canvas for me, and I have to paint something on top of it, right? I don't care where the brush comes from. It's the paint that I care about. That's how I look at it. You know?
Fair enough. Understood. It's a major flex, but I like it.
It's not even meant to be.
It's a flex, dude.
But yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
It is a good kind of flex.
Yeah.